I still don't understand how the woman in the attic knew my name. I'd never seen her before, but she whispered it from the darkness, as if she'd been waiting for me my whole life. Before we begin, please comment below and tell me what city you were watching from. I might just find a real haunted story from your hometown next. And don't forget to like the video, subscribe with the bell on, and stay until the end, because the final twist in this story will truly shock you. I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone and old houses outnumber the living. My mom used to say that the walls in those homes remember things. I never really understood what she meant until the year we moved into the Burton house. It was an old Victorian, half hidden by overgrown oaks. My parents bought it cheap, saying it just needed some love. But the first time I stepped through the front door, something about the air felt wrong. Thick, as if I'd just walked underwater. The floorboards moaned beneath my feet even when I stood still. And the smell, a mix of dust and something metallic, clung to everything. The realtor had warned us that the previous owner, an elderly woman named Mrs. Ellery, had passed away inside the house. Peacefully, she said. But when my mom asked where, the realtor hesitated, then forced a smile and said, "In the upstairs bedroom." That was the room that became mine. The first night I couldn't sleep. The house made too many noises, groans, creaks, soft thuds in the walls. But what really unnerved me was the faint tapping sound that came from above the ceiling. Not like pipes or rodents, it was too deliberate, like fingers. When I told my mom, she brushed it off. "Old houses settle," she said. But the next night I noticed something worse. As I lay in bed half asleep, I heard someone softly whisper my name. "Ethan." It came from above, from the attic. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. The sound was faint but unmistakable. The voice of a woman, low, rasping, almost gentle. I pulled the blanket over my head and stayed that way until morning. The next day I convinced myself I'd imagined it. Maybe it had been a dream, but that night it happened again. Only this time, the whisper was followed by slow footsteps crossing the attic floor. I told my dad, who laughed it off, saying it was probably raccoons. He went up to check, climbing the narrow stairs with a flashlight. I waited at the bottom, listening. A minute passed. Then 2. "Dad," I called. He didn't answer. Then suddenly the light beam flickered across the floorboards above me, and his voice came down, shaky. "Ethan, stay downstairs." He came back down, pale and silent, locking the attic door behind him. He told my mom something later that night, but they spoke in whispers. When I asked what he saw, he said only, "Old boxes, nothing to worry about." But his tone said otherwise. A few nights later, I woke again, this time to the sound of a faint humming. A tune, old and slow, drifting through the vents. I followed the sound through the dark hallway until I found myself beneath the attic door. The humming stopped. Then came the whisper again, closer this time. "Ethan." I stumbled back, heart pounding. My hand brushed against something cold, the attic key hanging on a hook near the stairwell. I don't know why I took it. Curiosity, maybe. Or something stronger, something that didn't feel like my own thought. The next afternoon, when my parents were out, I unlocked the attic door. The stairs groaned beneath my weight as I climbed, the air growing colder with each step. Dust floated in the weak light from a small window, and the smell up there was suffocating, mold and old perfume. At first, I saw nothing but stacks of boxes, old furniture, and a rocking chair. Then I noticed something strange. The chair was moving, ever so slightly, back and forth. My throat tightened. "Hello?" The motion stopped, and then the whisper came again, right behind me. "Ethan." I spun around, but there was no one there, just the shadows. I backed toward the stairs, and that's when I saw it. On the far wall, there was a small framed photo, a woman standing in front of the house, smiling faintly. Her eyes were so pale they almost glowed. Scrawled across the glass in faded ink were 3 words, "Still watching you." I dropped the photo, heart hammering, and ran down the stairs, slamming the attic door behind me. the key twisted in my shaking hand as I locked it. That night I dreamed of her, the woman from the photo, standing at the foot of my bed, whispering my name over and over until her face began to rot away. When I woke, I was sweating and gasping for air. But what froze my blood was the single dusty footprint on my bedroom floor. It led from the doorway to the side of my bed, and it was facing me. The next morning, I tried to convince myself that I'd tracked the dirt in somehow. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. The footprint was too small to be mine, and it looked wrong, like it had been pressed into the floor by something lighter than a person. My parents noticed how pale I was at breakfast. When my mom asked what was wrong, I lied and said I'd just had a nightmare. My dad glanced at me over his coffee and said, "You didn't go in the attic again, did you?" That question froze me. He said, "Again." I wanted to ask what he meant, but something in his eyes, a quiet, unspoken fear, made me stay silent. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak and whisper in the house felt amplified. Around 2 a.m., I heard a faint dragging sound from above, something heavy being pulled across the attic floor. I buried my head under the pillow, but then I heard it again, louder this time. A slow, deliberate drag, followed by a knock on the ceiling right above me. Knock, 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 my breath hitched. Then the whisper came again, softer, almost soothing. "Ethan, open the door." I jumped out of bed and ran into the hallway, turning on every light I could. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next day, I finally told my mom everything. About the whispers, the voice, the rocking chair, the footprint. She listened quietly, her face pale, then said, "Maybe you just need a break from this room." That afternoon, she made me switch with the guest bedroom downstairs. For the first time in weeks, I thought I might finally sleep peacefully. But the house wasn't done with me. Sometime around midnight, the lights flickered and went out. The entire house was swallowed in darkness. From the hallway, I heard the faint creak of a door opening. The attic door. I froze. I knew that sound. A few seconds later, I heard footsteps. Slow, dragging ones, descending the stairs. Step, step, step. I held my breath, straining to listen. The sound stopped outside my door. Then, a soft knock. Knock, knock. I didn't answer. After what felt like hours, the knocking stopped. But when I finally worked up the courage to peek into the hallway, the attic door stood wide open, and on the floor beneath it, something small gleamed in the moonlight. It was a locket, old and tarnished. I picked it up, hands trembling, and opened it. Inside was a tiny black and white photo of the same woman from the attic picture, her eyes cold and lifeless. On the opposite side of the locket, scratched into the metal, was a name, Margaret Ellery. I nearly dropped it when I heard a faint whisper right next to my ear. "That's mine." I turned, heart pounding, but the hallway was empty. I threw the locket on the table and ran back into my room, locking the door. For the rest of the night, I sat with my back against the wall, lights on, eyes fixed on the shadows. The next morning, I showed the locket to my dad. He stared at it for a long moment, then said something that made my blood run cold. "I threw that away last week." He explained that when he first went into the attic, he'd found the locket lying on the rocking chair and decided to toss it out because it gave him the creeps. He'd thrown it into the garbage outside, but somehow it was back inside the house. That was the day he decided to call a priest. The priest arrived that evening, an older man with tired eyes. He didn't smile much. He asked to see the attic. My dad hesitated, but finally agreed. When the priest came down, he looked shaken. "There's something here," he said quietly. "Something bound to this place. I'll bless the house, but..." He trailed off, glancing toward the attic door. "Don't go up there again." He sprinkled holy water in every room, murmuring prayers under his breath. For a few nights afterward, everything seemed calm. The house was silent again. I actually slept. Then, one night, I woke to the sound of music, soft piano notes drifting through the air. I followed the sound down the hallway, past the attic stairs until I reached the old parlor. The piano there had been broken for years, keys yellowed and warped, yet somehow it was playing. A slow, haunting melody, the same tune I'd heard humming from the attic weeks before. As I stood frozen in the doorway, I noticed something even worse, the reflection in the piano's dusty mirror. A woman standing behind me, pale dress, hollow eyes, her mouth moving soundlessly as the music played. I spun around. Nothing. The room was empty. But when I looked back at the mirror, she was closer. That was when I ran. I didn't stop until I reached my parents' room. My dad woke up instantly when he saw my face. Before I could even explain, we heard the sound. The same piano melody, now echoing louder through the entire house. He grabbed a flashlight and ran downstairs, shouting for it to stop. I followed close behind, and when we reached the parlor, the music ceased abruptly. The piano lid was shut, but sitting on top of it was the locket, the same one we had thrown away twice. The priest came again the next morning. This time he brought 2 men from his church. They spent nearly 4 hours upstairs chanting prayers and burning incense. When they finished, one of them came down trembling and said only, "It's not gone, it's waiting." My parents refused to stay another night. We packed our things and left before sunset. I remember glancing back through the car window as we drove away, and for a split second I saw her, Margaret Ellery, standing in the attic window watching us leave, and smiling. We moved out of the Burton house that night, but it never really let us go. For weeks after we left, I'd wake up at exactly 3:07 a.m. The same time I used to hear the whispers. The silence in our new home should have been comforting, but it wasn't. I kept catching faint creaks in the walls, like someone shifting their weight just out of sight. My parents refused to talk about what happened. My dad got a new job in another county. My mom started sleeping with the lights on. I tried to tell myself it was over, that the house, the locket, the whispers were all behind us. But deep down, I knew something had followed me. It started small. My phone would ring at random times, showing no number. When I answered, I'd only hear static. Then every few nights I'd wake up to a faint sound, tapping coming from inside my closet. 3 slow knocks. Always 3. One night I decided to record it. I left my phone on my nightstand with the camera facing the closet and hit record before going to bed. At 3:07, I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. The room felt freezing. My phone screen was still glowing. I picked it up and watched the footage. At first, nothing, just the dark outline of the closet door. Then the handle began to turn. Slowly, quietly, the door opened an inch, then stopped. And from the darkness inside, a pale hand, small, bony, trembling, reached out and pressed against the frame. I dropped the phone, my heart slamming in my chest. When I looked back up, the closet was closed, completely still. The next morning, I checked the footage again. The video ended abruptly right after the hand appeared, as if something had touched the camera. I showed it to my mom, but when she watched, the file corrupted mid-playback. Her face went white. "Delete it," she whispered. "Just delete it." That night I couldn't sleep at all. I sat on my bed staring at the closet, waiting. Around 3 a.m., my room grew colder again, the air heavy, electric. Then I heard her voice. "Ethan." I froze. It was the same voice from the attic, soft, deliberate, almost tender. "You left me there." I couldn't move. The whisper grew closer, right next to my ear now. "You shouldn't have taken my locket." Then the closet door swung open. Inside I saw her, Margaret Ellery. Only this time her face wasn't calm or watchful. It was angry. Her eyes were black pits, her mouth open in a silent scream that seemed to vibrate through the entire room. I felt something cold wrap around my wrist, invisible fingers digging into my skin. I screamed. My parents burst into the room seconds later, flipping on the lights, but she was gone. They found me sitting on the floor, shaking, staring at the open closet. My wrist was covered in red marks, like something had been gripping it tightly. After that night, my parents called in help again. Not priests this time, but paranormal investigators. 2 women and a man arrived with cameras, EVP recorders, and strange metal rods. They set up everything in my room and started asking questions to whatever spirit might still be attached. For hours, there was nothing. Then one of the recorders caught a faint whisper. They played it back, amplifying the sound. A woman's voice, distant but clear. "Still watching you." The same words written on that photo in the attic. The investigators looked shaken. One of them asked, "Who are you watching?" Silence. Then, another whisper. "Ethan." That was enough. My parents told them to stop the session immediately. They left in a hurry, promising to send us their findings later, but they never did. We burned the locket that night in the backyard. My dad poured gasoline over it, and as the flames caught, I swear I heard that same humming tune. Faint, hidden under the crackle of fire. After that, things were quiet. For months. But about a year later, curiosity got the better of me. One night I searched online for Burton House, Pennsylvania history. What I found made my stomach drop. A local archive article from 1957. Widow Margaret Ellery found dead in attic. Cause of death undetermined. The article said her husband had gone missing in 1949. Neighbors claimed Margaret became reclusive, locking herself in the attic for years, saying she could still hear him. When police finally entered, they found her seated in a rocking chair, clutching a locket, the same one ID found, with her husband S photo inside. The final line of the article read, "Witnesses reported that, even after her body was removed, the rocking chair upstairs continued to move on its own for several days." I shut my laptop immediately. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That night, I dreamed of her again, sitting in that rocking chair, humming that same slow tune, staring at me through the dark. When she finally spoke, her words were calm, almost loving. "You came into my home. You woke me up. Now, you'll never forget me." I jolted awake, heart pounding, and noticed something glinting on my nightstand. A small piece of metal, blackened at the edges. The locket. The same one we'd burned to ashes. I screamed so loud my parents came running. When they saw it, they didn't say a word. We packed our bags that morning and moved halfway across the country. That was years ago. But even now, no matter where I go, I still wake up at 3:07. Sometimes when I'm half asleep, I swear I hear that humming again. Soft, slow, and familiar. And every once in a while, I'll catch a glimpse of something pale in the corner of a mirror. A woman, watching me. And sometimes, she smiles. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. Tell me in the comments what city you re from. Maybe I'll find a real haunted story from your town next. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe with the bell on, and share it with someone who loves true horror stories. And remember, if you ever hear your name whispered from the attic, don't answer.